What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with a Destiny 2 video, and in this one we're going to talk about the roadmap for Destiny 2 in 2024. And of course, Bungie have made numerous announcements as they always do, with very scattered reveals and updates about the future. We know now that the final shape is delayed and will be dropping in June of 2024, but I thought it might be useful to recap and round up everything we know about the content schedule for next year, starting slowly in the new year and then amping up towards summer of 2024. As of course we're going to see free content updates, new activities, PvP updates and rewards as well as events. But additionally in that timeline we get major reveals, and Bungie are planning a sort of major marketing period in spring of next year where we're going to see reveals for the final shape, new gameplay, and finally learn about some features that according to Bungie they've been keeping pretty quiet about up until now. And then ultimately we'll get the launch of the final shape and the episodes that follow, and that content will lead us into 2025. So the timeline that we're used to, or at least that we've been used to over the past 3 or 4 years especially, is going to be disrupted with the delay for final shape. And obviously I can't speak to whether this will ultimately be true or not, but Joe Blackburn and Bungie in general have indicated that the updates and reveals that we'll see in the next few months are paving the way into what they're hoping will be a much better experience for players in general, but also one of the best expansions that Destiny's ever had. So obviously we hope that that is the case, but nonetheless we're going to round up everything we know about the next few months and the content roadmap all the way up to 2025 pretty much. So I hope you enjoy this one, and if you do, get subscribed for more Destiny content. But now getting into it, we'll start out in January of 2024, where things are going to be pretty slow. Of course, Season of the Wish will be well established by then. We'll have had the exotic quest for the Wishkeeper exotic bow. That weapon's going to come with multiple upgrades. We'll still be picking up a couple of the Catalyst upgrades very early on in January, so that's a factor. But we'll also see Iron Banner on January 2nd, and Bungie have outlined that we'll see Crucible Labs Checkmate Clash on January 16th, as well as another Iron Banner at the end of January on the 23rd. But otherwise, it's going to be business as usual later on in a season during January, so that will be one of the quieter months for the game. But then moving into February, Bungie have said that we'll see new weekly progression-based quests called Wishes, as well as the launch of Moments of Triumph. And so in terms of these wish quests, Joe Blackburn actually referred to them as Riven's wishes during the creator call that we had recently. So they are obviously going to be tied into the narrative for Season of the Wish. Who knows, maybe we'll get to use the 15th wish directly or something like that. But Joe Blackburn did describe these as reward-centric quests. And so that should be an interesting factor, but otherwise we don't know what those specific rewards could look like. And it's also worth mentioning that this isn't a major content update, but is more of a sort of element of a season that'll be dropping during February to sort of pad things out. But on top of that, we'll see Moments of Triumph for 2023/24, and that'll kick off with new cosmetics, probably new store items, and of course the 2023 title. You can see the icon for the 2023 title right there, and as always the objectives for this will focus on content that we've had over the past year. So beginning in Lightfall, things like the Legendary campaign, but all of the raids and dungeons for this year, completing events on Neomuna, and various bits of seasonal content, exotic quests from Season of the Deep, Witch, and Wish. And really it will comprise of the highlights of 2023. And we can see that by completing 26 of the 30 objectives, we'll be able to claim the Moments of Triumph title for the year. On top of that, along the way there'll be a couple of exotic items. Firstly, we've got the Laurel Shell exotic ghost, and there's another item there, the Fire Gilt Quadriga, which is an exotic sparrow. And they're essentially little stocking fillers. But then we get on to March of 2024, and this will simply feature a seasonal event, the Guardian Games. And of course this is a class versus class competition, so there's always a class scoring element, but otherwise it is a seasonal event, so it'll be focused on new cosmetics, perhaps a new weapon or two, and we have had Guardian Games weapons in the past. And so March won't see anything absolutely massive, but we'll get a familiar seasonal event. And then, as we head into April, things do start to get a little bit more interesting. So firstly, the game gets a new update called Into the Light, and Bungie say they're delivering a 2-month content update available to everyone who plays Destiny 2, and Into the Light will prepare players for their Guardian's journey into the Traveler. And so Into the Light update sort of sounds reminiscent potentially of something like the April update from Destiny 1 in terms of size. That dropped a small selection of new rewards as well as a new strike. But in preparing new and existing players to journey into the Traveler, Joe Blackburn said it will be built for all players, featuring new rewards. And it might be that we recap on some old content similar to Timeline Reflections, but perhaps more questified. And there should be some dedicated rewards there as well. And otherwise, I guess new activity content of some sort is possible, but I would imagine this will be largely built on updating existing content in one way or another. So exactly how groundbreaking it'll be, we'll just have to wait and see. But at the same time, Bungie will be amping up their marketing arm for final shape reveals. So Bungie have said they're looking forward to sharing much more in April, including all new gameplay to showcase the significant content additions currently in development. And Joe Blackburn also said that they want the game to speak for itself. He also suggested suggested that there are a lot of elements that they haven't yet revealed for the new expansion, stating that there's plenty of stuff that we need to see and not just read about. So there's a strong indication there that as well as the Into the Light update, Bungie are going to go through a big marketing phase for the final shape over that sort of 2-month period, where they may even be a little more in-depth on showing off gameplay, new features and things like that, probably more than what we've seen in the past with reveals, so it'll certainly be a more interesting time in terms of the conversation around the game. But before we get to final shape, in May, the free PvP map pack will arrive, bringing 3 new Crucible maps for all players, and this is going to be the biggest addition to Crucible real estate in one go that we've had since Forsaken, I believe, and that's both a good thing, but also highlights how much PvP has needed updates. But for now, focusing on the positive aspects, Bungie have said that the new maps will feature on Europa, Neomuna, and a pyramid ship, and they've said as well that these maps will be sort of Javelin 4-sized, as they want them to be good for multiple different game modes, whether it's control, 6v6 stuff, but also elimination, and competitive modes. So for anyone playing a regular amount of PvP, it'll be good to finally get some updates there. And of course, over that period in May, we're going to get plenty of final shape reveals as well, which leads us directly into June, where the final shape will drop. So on that subject, Joe Blackburn has said that they know expectations are very high for the final shape, and that it needs to stand side by side with the best content they've made for Destiny. It's worth reiterating as well, he added that they've been holding cards close to their chest in terms of revealing some of the new stuff for the final shape, and so he indicated that there's much more to it than we currently know about, and he asked players to bear with Bungie a little longer before we find out what that stuff is. And that's where he said it's stuff that we need to see and not just hear about, which is why they're going to have such significant reveals. But then for final shape, of course, we get the Pale Heart Destination, which is a weird mix of sort of familiar earthy looking environments, and that includes Last City themed areas mixed with weird sort of Dreaming City style world spaces, all the way to much more darkness themed Pyramid to sort of Vow of Disciple and Root of Nightmare style environments. So it's definitely a strange mix. But on top of that, in final shape, we'll see new enemies, which are subjugators, and are kind of reminiscent of tormentors, Lucent Hive, and champions, in that they're sort of high priority targets that change the combat space, as opposed to an entirely new race of enemy. But of course, we'll get new weapons, armor, and exotics, some of them returning from D1, and some of them brand new, and that's on top of the new light subclasses. And then for activities, on top of a new legendary story mode, there will be a new destination activity, plenty of quests and all of the stuff that we don't currently know about in the final shape. But then beyond that, we'll get the final shape raid, and Bungie had indicated that in that raid, it'll trigger a sort of final story component for the final shape that all players will be able to get involved with, so potentially a secret quest or sort of mission for the community launching upon completion of the raid. And then there'll be the dungeon key for the year of the final shape, and given the delay, we'll certainly get one dungeon after summer of 2024, but the second dungeon could be very late 24 or even in the first part of 2025. But of course, before those, we'll get episodes, which are Bungie's new answer to the sort of season-style model, and originally episode 1 was due to start around a month after the final shape. So pre-delay, that would have been sort of March to June. But given that the final shape drops in June, episode 1 is now likely to be between July and October. Bungie have said these episodes will last nearly 4 months, but will be delivered in 3 6-week acts during that period. And so episode 2 will probably run between November of 2024 all the way up to February of 2025, with episode 3 running between February and May of 2025. So the content calendar does take us all the way to well over a year from now, and the episodes will be called Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. And we can see as well they will include new exotic weapons and missions, quests, story, activity, as well as weapons and armor, artifact mods, pass ranks, and rewards. And pretty much all of those elements will drop during each of the acts for episodes. So every 6 weeks, we're going to get more of those components dropped into the game. And so in the middle of the season, imagine getting new artifact perks, new weapons, potentially new exotics and quests as well. It definitely mixes up when we expect to see different bits of content for the game. Of course, the quality and longevity of those bits of content will have to speak for themselves when we finally get there, but Bungie are definitely aware that the seasonal model has grown tired, and that as well as the game being a better game, the way that the content rolls out and the expectation around that needs to change as well. So all we can do is hold on and wait and see if that's the case when it happens, but that is currently what we know about the roadmap for Destiny 2 between 2024 and 2025. What happens beyond that, we'll simply have to wait and see. We've got a lot of stuff to get past, really, and of course Bungie need to do a lot of things right. I'm certainly hopeful that they can pull it off. I guess we'll see where we end up around, June to August of next year, I think that will ultimately tell us a lot about whether Bungie can pull things back together. But for now, I wanted to give you guys an update and round up everything that we currently know as we go into New Year, of course. And so I hope the video has been useful, guys. If it has, a rating below really does help us out on the channel. Once again, also be sure to get subscribed, and I'll keep you posted on all of these bits of content that are coming down the road. But let us know your thoughts on that roadmap in the comments section as well, and any stuff that you're hoping to see. But otherwise, I appreciate you tuning in today, and I will catch you guys very soon.